everyone. My name is Jessica Marks. I serve as director of the NAM Climate Collaborative, which is a public-private partnership of stakeholders across the entire health sector that come together to address its environmental impact while also ensuring its sustainability and resilience. I see several of our members in the room today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd just like to thank you all for what has been an incredible day of inspiration, action, and I'm really excited to introduce our third and final session, which is focused on the Climate and Health Hackathon that happened over this weekend. And I'd like to welcome Seema Wadhwa to the stage, who is the founder of Health and Climate and is joined by Dr. Chethan Sarabu, who's Director of Clinical Innovation for the Health Tech Club at Cornell Tech. They will be sharing more information about the exciting hackathon that occurred over the weekend, which was focused on the intersection of AI, climate, and health, and then, of course, to celebrate the winners from the hackathon today. Over to you both.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the National Academy of Medicines and for including us in the ceremony for the awards, as well as to the New York Academy of Medicine for hosting us here today. What an honor to be part of such an incredible day of inspiration. So speaking of inspiration, I think that's probably where I'd like to start our conversation today. So, I think back to about this time last year, I was on my way leaving Climate Week, and I was so inspired by connecting with so many people, learning new ideas. And, the thing that I wanted to bring back to the table the following year was something that was focused on action. We heard from an amazing panel of experts on the power of AI and the power of that we can use to accelerate change. So, literally on the train ride home, I reached out to Chethan, my good friend at this point, and said, you know what, let's do a hackathon. The beauty of that was I'd never been to a hackathon, I'd never done a hackathon, but it just sounded like it was very powerful. And, I think that's what centered this work. It was the power of an idea and the power of an idea of bringing together diverse audiences, bringing together communities in a different way, building new communities, and really trying to solve this challenge of climate change from an intersectional perspective. So how did we make it happen? This was an idea that started on a train ride home. And, come earlier this year, as I'm sure many of you faced a lot of anxiety, I personally did in terms of all of the things that were happening around us. And so I took that energy and leaned into the fact that action truly is the antidote to despair, and started to work on creating. And the creation really was accelerated by AI. So we're going to share a little bit of what that journey looked like. And I think some of you probably have a question, as I kind of did. What is a hackathon?
Yeah, so I want to see a show of hands here. How many of you in this audience have been to a hackathon before? Okay, that's maybe like 30% of folks. So a hackathon is a way to bring a diverse group of people together over a short period of time, typically a weekend, sometimes 36 hours, sometimes 48. There's a lot of different variations in them, to come together around a specific challenge and work on something, on building something. Usually there's a technological bent to it. You're coding something, but it doesn't always have to be the case. But it's really about that time constraint coming together, generally in physical space, although there are virtual hackathons as well, around a particular challenge. And that is what we did here by hosting the first Health and Climate AI Hackathon, brought a lot of great energy together. We hosted it at Cornell Tech on Roosevelt Island, had a lot of diverse participants, photo from many of our volunteers and advisors and mentors who are helping out.
So go ahead.
So we had 4 different challenge areas that we wanted participants to focus on: extreme heat, air quality, severe weather, and sustainable operations. And with each of these challenge areas, we leaned into our community of colleagues, many of whom are in this room, experts in being able to really draw out what are the health and climate intersections here, and framed in a way where AI solutions could potentially help.
And so as a lead up to that, in each of these areas, as Chitan mentioned, we're able to leverage exceptional talent from across the community to help develop and ground exactly what these challenge briefs included. So we framed what are some possible questions. And with that, we actually align them with what data is available publicly and what data partners could we lean into to help then create not only what are the challenges that we need to face, but also how do we power these challenges with some supporting data. And I did want to, we did want to highlight that the power that made this all happen was definitely not just the 2 of us here. I'm so grateful for so many people who leaned in, but especially our core team, many of which who are here today. We have Rishabh, Priyanka, Vishnu, and Sylvie. And, they all brought not only so much energy, but such depth of knowledge, whether it was in the data front or whether it was leveraging how to put these systems together. So we would not have been able to do this, and I think this is true for every idea out there, without having an amazing community behind us. Also, we would not have been able to do this with amazing partners supporting us. Oftentimes you have sponsors for events, which, we did, but what made it really special is our partners, our sponsors were not only our sponsors, they were also our partners. Every single one of our sponsors leaned in with providing data, providing advice. How should we do this? We had them really lean in to make this all possible in a very collaborative way.
And building on that, we had some amazing data and technology partners on the data side provide access to clinical data to help participants build solutions around this. Technology partners that provided tools, platforms for participants to build new ideas, and also partners that provided access to clinical, operational, sustainability data that really enriched what was possible. And as Seema mentioned, they also leaned in to be there and support participants using their different platforms. And we had, in addition, a number of advisors, many of whom are here today as well, who not only helped to develop a lot of the challenge areas, think through the hackathon, but were really instrumental in making this a success.
So, the other important part was ensuring that we were considering all elements when judging the tools that were developed. And for that, we also had a fabulous wide range of judges considering the climate impacts and considerations, considering the tech implications and being able to really deploy these tools, as well as from a health perspective. So again, a real focus on intersectionality across the event. So, what did the day look like? How did it all come together? So after everybody was there, what we were able to do was really ground the conversation by having phenomenal speakers really help highlight why this work mattered. And many of us are very fortunate to have heard these conversations and to be inspired. But it was actually very inspirational to see these students, to see these professionals who really don't work on climate or health, or especially that intersection, to start to understand and see the difference a different element of how climate and health intersect and how they could leverage tech to really drive change.
And we also had many of our data and tech partners there, some of the founders of data partner and tech partner companies who were there, spent hours at the hackathon directly working with the teams, and were really instrumental in helping out and making it a success. And wanted to also just thank a range of mentors and volunteers. When you host a hackathon, you not only need participants, but participant teams get advice from mentors who leaned in, spent hours over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday, and a number of volunteers too, who really helped make sure that the ideas that the teams were working on could be successful.
So we've done a lot of thank yous, and they were all, a lot of gratitude for all of them, but also just wanted to show the reality of what this looked like. As a room full of energy, filled to Fire Marshal Max, maybe a little over, a little under, but it was just really the sense of building a community.
And we had over 150 participants who are registered, 27 mentors, advisors from 109 unique institutions, many from academia. The word cloud on the right has a lot of institutions where people came from. And we had a pretty even split of people who'd been to a hackathon and who had not. And we don't show this on this slide, but we had a really great breakdown of skill sets from people who came from a data science background to folks from a clinical and public health background to folks from a climate or business background. And then the pie chart on the bottom left shows the distribution of the different challenge areas the teams focused on. We had a total of around 20 teams compete in the end and worked on across all the different challenge areas that we highlighted, some working on a combination of challenge areas like air quality and extreme heat together. And we had a survey after the hackathon that about 30 or so participants took, and we got pretty good scores from the people who responded. People seemed to like the hackathon and also wanted to come back for future ones. So it was really encouraging to see that information, especially from the first time doing this without really understanding how people would perceive it. And I wanted to highlight, as we transition to getting to the meat of the presentation and talking about the teams, wanted to highlight one particular team, and this is particularly in relationship to the conversation you just heard. The panel that just went before us was talking about how do you balance AI's use responsibly. And I wanted to just highlight a conversation that was had with one of the teams, Mustafa, who's on the team. I think I saw him in the audience earlier. But they were building a hardware air quality device, air monitoring device that people could have with them that had a large language model on board that, based on the air quality you were exposed to, could give you advice on what to do. But they engaged us in thinking about they were looking at different open source large language models, and we're trying to ask that question of, for the particular task they were looking at, how could they choose a model that optimized the accuracy with efficiency with its carbon footprint? And this New York Times article highlights a study which provided a lot of that background information of trying to figure out, for any given task, how do you choose which AI model actually is the best in terms of giving you the accuracy while not overstressing the resources.
And I think that leans into some of the conversation that happened earlier, just before our session, in terms of, AI really has the power. AI is a tool, and that tool has the power to be leveraged for good, and it has the power to be leveraged for less noble things. And so, as we approached grappling with, is this something we want to lean into? We know the impact that data centers have within their communities. In fact, I live in Virginia, and I was just looking up the number. We have something like 638 data centers. We have many data centers in Virginia. And, I think one of the things we really came to the conclusion of is This is a technology that is going to move forward with or without us. The opportunity we have is to influence how it's used, whether that is in the healthcare industry, in the climate industry, and also we have the power to build a community around how to use it. You know, I sit here today having built a website. You know, I'm an engineer, but coding was not my specialty. It was probably one of my first worst classes, Turbo Pascal coding. But I learned how to vibe code. I actually didn't even know that it was called, but you know, it was really an enabling. We have found that AI is really an enabling tool to drive change, one that can be put in the hands of many to be used in ways that have never been considered yet. Chetan, I don't know if you want to highlight a little bit of your use of one of the tools, Qs.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, there are so many AI tools that are coming out very rapidly. They could be used to help you build a website, to help you generate ideas. And what we learned in putting together this hackathon and in advising hackathon participants, we learned what tools can work well where. And we'll feature later, we're actually going to be hosting a webinar about these different AI tools to help all of you and others learn what's possible. So we'll share that a little bit later.
So, you know, we are here to celebrate today. We're here to share what our learnings were, but also to celebrate many teams who developed phenomenal tools in a very short period of time. So we wanted to lift the hood a little bit and share what was including in the judging criteria. What are some of the key considerations? So as you can see, impact really was one of the key elements. We wanted to be really thoughtful around team composition. Part of the goal for this event is to create cross-disciplinary learnings and conversations, as well as effective use of AI. You know, that's built into what we're doing. Innovation, feasibility, and would a product have an opportunity to be really scalable? But in addition to that, we wanted people to be mindful of key considerations that actually did come into play. You know, the sustainability and resource use in the development of their tool. Was there evidence and measurement available coming out of it? And were there considerations around the ethics and governance of what they were developing? It was truly insightful, the different perspectives people brought to this. Also, we wanted to reward these great teams, which included cash prizes for the top 3 teams, as well as some scholarship support for some software software focused on climate and tech from TerraDo. So the last thing I wanted to highlight on this topic as well was, in addition to focusing on developing tools, we also appreciate the importance of bringing the climate and health voice to broader communities. So we also incentivize the development of social media posts lifting up the work that was happening. So excited to do that. There was a lot of judging deliberation. And so we as you can see, it was a very heated debate because there were some phenomenal tools that were developed. But ultimately, before we get to the winners, we wanted to talk about a little bit of the bonus outcomes. So one of the bonus outcomes was the ability to host a roundtable centered on bringing together amazing experts who shared their perspective, multiple perspectives from a climate, health, and AI perspective in terms of what is missing, what are the gaps, and how do we move forward from that. So we're excited to share out some details from that on the back end, but it was one of the bonus elements. Another bonus element also included probably one of my favorite things to come out of this hackathon. So as we were announcing the winners, and just for those who haven't been to a hackathon, it's exceptionally fun because you get to do a drum roll to go with it. We got interrupted by Jay. Jay is the CEO of FortiGuard, a really cool tool that looks at heat mapping real time, 2 feet above the ground in a 10-foot by 10-foot grid. If you haven't had an opportunity, check it out. It's really cool. So he said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. I have an announcement to make." And he actually, right on the spot, said, "I am offering a paid internship to one of the members of one of the teams," because he was so impressed with what came out of it. Additionally, some of the other bonus outcomes included further development and investment in some of the tools that have been put forward. And to talk about that for just a moment, I'm going to pass it to Nimish Jerry, who is the Chief Impact Officer from McKesson.
Thanks, Seema. Just a couple of notes. First of all, we are absolutely honored to sponsor this hackathon. Help me thank Seema and Chetan first for their insight and doing this. Thank you. And for the McKesson team that's in the audience, Marilisa and Kit and Robert, they're our sustainability team for McKesson. And so they're driving a lot of this work for us. You know, folks, how many of you know McKesson? Few of you? So we're a large healthcare company. Just to give you an idea of our reach, every 60 seconds of the day, something, someone, somewhere in healthcare touches McKesson. So we believe that we have a responsibility to what we need to do that is right. We've been around for 192 years. We started right here in New York by John McKesson. And why this hackathon is so important for us is innovation at the end of the day will drive change. And based on some of the things that I've heard today, I know we're all exhausted. Aren't we all exhausted? Right? We're like, oh my God, I can't take this. I need another beer, maybe non-alcoholic. Okay, that's okay too. But you know, it reminds me of a quote that change will never happen if we wait for something or someone else to come along. Change will only happen if we look ourselves in the mirror and drive it. And this hackathon, I think, starts to do just that, is to drive it. And so we're absolutely honored to do something like this. And we'll continue to press forward. Climate change not only impacts patients' lives. As a clinician myself, I know the increase in respiratory conditions. I see the increase in cancer cases. I see the heat exhaustion cases that are coming into our ERs. But at the same time, from a business standpoint, we deliver a third of the pharmaceuticals to patients every day. When that hurricane comes through, when those storms come through, when there's a fire, guess what? Those trucks, those pipelines don't work. And when they don't work, there's a patient behind that package that doesn't get their medication. That's why this is critical. We need to start talking in terms of how it impacts people and how it impacts business. It's not just a do good. It's doing good business that will drive change in what we're trying to get done. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you on behalf of McKesson for what you do and for your energy. This is not the time to step back. This is the time to step forward. And certainly we at McKesson, all 50,000 of us, are very, very honored to do just that. Now, one of the things that we're really excited about, one of the questions that was asked by one of our team members was to address something called pharmacy deserts. Anybody know what a pharmacy desert is, right? They're usually the same thing as a medical desert and a food desert. In essence, there is no provider for those individuals that live in that community. And so there's about 800 pharmacy deserts in our country, believe it or not. Certainly not in New York, but in rural areas around the country, there are. And so we posed a question of, can we solve pharmacy deserts through this hackathon and how it impacts, how climate impacts those continuing deserts coming along? And I think one of the teams actually selected it, right?
They developed a fabulous model and the beginnings of a tool that actually identified not only the pharmacy deserts, but also specifically how heat impacts them and which areas are at greatest risk to support Project Oasis.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about it. I'm so excited about it. I'm going to invite the entire team that did that work to McKesson and actually present this. So we can take a look at it. Because I believe, I have 2 kids at home. They're adults now. I shouldn't say kids, but they actually have better ideas than I do. I don't have the good ideas. It's them that have the good ideas. I believe that the youth of our country is going to solve the issues of our country. And so let's make sure that they have a stage and they can present to the folks that are funding these types of works and these types of events. So thank you again for the opportunity to support and sponsor. So back to you, Seema.
Thank you. All right, without further ado, let us announce the winners. The last thing we'll highlight, and we will share this after, is in terms of what's next, we will highlight the winners, but also for those in this community who are interested in being part of a community, that is part of our mission as well. So you can see from this QR code, we will be hosting a conversation on how to use some of these tools that were used during the hackathon. That'll be early November, so feel free to check out this site to figure out more of the details. All right, so let's have our third place winners come up. This is Team Heat IQ. We're just going to do some quick pictures. So Team Heat IQ was a team that was focused on developing an interactive real-time dashboard that was focused on the impact of heat on and supporting workplace resilience on outdoor workers. So what we'd love to do is invite them right here in front of the screen for a picture. And we'll do that really quickly with all of the teams. So Team Heat IQ. We'll have group picture taken. Let's join them quickly. Step down. Excellent. Thank you so much. They will all. You guys can stay here. And next we have our second place winner, which is Team Verident. Team Verident focused on developing focused on sustainable operations and the development of an LCA tool that identifies hotspots along the supply chain. I know this is also a tool that is where there is interest in further development for that. So if we can have Team Verident join us up here for a picture as well. Excellent. And did we get a picture? All right, we'll move on to the next team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And to our first place winning team, Team Storm Logic. If you want to come on up. And Team Storm Logic had a really compelling pitch. They started with, you get one of those extreme heat or air quality alerts. What do you do with that information? And they built a really compelling AI-based personalized guidance based on environmental alerts, and we're really thoughtful about the equity implications too, and thinking about the use of SMS to make that accessible to the most number of people. So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
We'll do this side.
Yeah, and just a big round of applause for all of our winners one more time. Yeah. And they're going to be around for the reception, so hopefully you all get a chance to meet and talk about what they have been working on and where we can take it from here, and really call upon this community to help support the great work and ideas that they've seeded to help grow them to the next level.
So, we leave you with this question. We've heard a lot about the challenges of AI, the promises of AI. we leave you with a question of how will you use AI responsibly to power your next idea? So thank you so much. Really.
Thank you.
Okay, you've had a long day, so I'm going to make it very brief. But first of all, thank you. Great job. Hey, Captain, how are you? Good. Good. So I want to begin first to thank Ann Kurth, our host. Thank you. Anne certainly is a distinguished member of the National Academy of Medicine. She leads this academy, and we're so glad she's really working this space as well. So thank you very much. Certainly, I have a lot of people to thank, but Judy Roden, who's just had to go for a UN meeting, she, in fact, is the chair of our Grand Challenge, which I'm sure you heard earlier today is the big initiative we have to address climate and health. Chris Henley, where are you, Chris? Chris is the director of the program. And you heard from him earlier. Jessica Marks, Justin Macy, I can go on and on. Thank you. But importantly, this was done in partnership with Kaiser Permanente. John Vu, are you here? There's John, thank you. So a couple of very short remarks. First of all, I think it's really great that health is now getting its visibility. I'm sure you heard a lot about what that means. When people think about climate change, think about kind of long-term effect in grandchildren, but in fact, you all know it's impacting people right now and people's health and lives. So it's good that we're getting the recognition. For example, in the Climate Week now, we do have a health track. And yesterday we came back from a number of meetings. I had the opportunity to, in fact, have a fireside chat with Ali Zaidi, who I guess was one of your early keynotes and just outstanding. This morning, I went to COP30, launch of the Berlin Health Action Plan. And of course, at COP30 now, there is, in fact, action plan on health. And so Brazil, another really important issue. But today, we focus on research and innovation. And I want to say the stimulus for all this stuff came from our partnership with Kaiser. And when Kaiser came and said, we need really looking at research gaps and research opportunities, went to work and created a really amazing report through Sinead Taylor and others, lots of hard work. So let me just say a few words. Why research, science, and innovation, and where we are today? Well, you know that, first of all, research innovation gives you the information, the knowledge, the data of, the impact of climate change, extreme heat, extreme weather event on human lives, but also disability, you heard, on the economic, insurance, and many others. So the impact is huge, but you got to do the research to collect that information. But also, you heard the word inequity. We know that, in fact, in this country, there are many marginalized communities, and around the world, there are low-income countries which are disproportionately affected. It's only through research would you get that information of what are the impacts and what can we do about them. So I do think that it's so important to think about local, regional, country, and global effects of climate change. But perhaps the important issue we think about is what do we do about this? So a lot is now looking at what do we do? What's the evidence of certain adaptation? So what's the evidence of mitigation? How do we actually address this whole issue? So at the end of the day, it will improve population health, but I think importantly, inform policy. So much of what we do, we want to change the world, want the world to listen and to make changes. And it's only through really good evidence and data, along with the narrative and the stories, that you can inform policy changes. So in that regard, we know data is so important, and I just heard the whole session on data AI. Of course, the hackathon emphasized the importance of data, the need to collect, to disaggregate, to analyze, and to use data effectively. But we also heard the potential of AI, phenomenal impact of the AI, but also the concern for AI in its misuse, if not, if anything, AI in energy usage, etc. So the idea of responsible AI. And of course, impact the workforce we all talked about. So it's been a really phenomenal day. I don't want to take any more of your time except to say we're here to learn. We've learned so much. I learned so much from this. We had to work with all of you. And when you're inspired by the hackathon winners and the young people and the energy that's put into it through Chetan and Seema, thank you. I think we should all feel extremely encouraged. And I believe we have a reception go out there, have a chance to talk to all of you. Thank you.